Well, NATO, since the end of the Cold War, has been trying to find its role in the world. And during the 90s, it had to focus on the Balkans. And then after 9/11, it was in Afghanistan. But with the combat mission in Afghanistan ending, people are starting to wonder again, what is NATO's role in the world? And we see the rise of the Islamic State in the Middle East, and we also see a resurgent Russia. So I think that NATO is going to be going back to its original purpose, which is territorial defense. When we see Russia increasing its military capabilities and threatening its European neighbors, then NATO really has no other choice but to go back to its roots. Yes, there is in terms of military capability. Many Europeans over the years have cut their defense budgets drastically, and as a consequence, they lack the certain military capabilities that are needed to fight modern warfare. We've seen this in Afghanistan, where some European countries had difficulties deploying just a handful of soldiers. And then we saw this in Libya in 2011 when some European countries were literally running out of bombs to drop. So at the end of the day, Europe needs to have some soul searching to do and realize that it is in a dangerous part of the world. Regardless of how safe Europe might be, the area around Europe is very unstable and dangerous. And I think that policymakers need to do a better job explaining this to their publics. Well, defense spending, like all other public spending, is about setting national priorities. And if the defense of the realm, if the defense of the nation is the number one job of government, which we're told this time and time again, then it shouldn't be a problem to find the right amount of money to spend on defense and security. But the case of the defense spending in NATO it's a terrible situation. Out of 28 members of NATO, only 4 spend the required 2% of GDP on defense. And as an illustrative point, London spends more on the Metropolitan Police than 15 NATO members spend on their national defense. So it is a really bad situation, and it's time that policymakers and politicians explain to their publics why it's necessary to spend money on national security. Well, this would be a tragic situation which would have economic, security, and political consequences, not only in Europe and the North Atlantic region, but also around the world. Much of the stability and security that Europe enjoys since the end of World War II has been a result of NATO. And that has led to economic prosperity, which has created a situation where the US and Europe are each other's number one trading partners, and together combined we are half of the world's GDP. Without that security and stability, it's likely this economic prosperity wouldn't take place. And then you'd have the other issues of protecting transit routes, pipelines, trading transit routes through the various straits, Strait of Gibraltar, Bosphorus Strait, for example. If NATO were to disappear, these areas would also become more contested and unstable.